Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the Feel Good Hour with myself, Muhammad Fasih Peterson, and once again in conversation with Tashneem Abrams, our resident cinephile, as I call her. She might not call herself that, but definitely she's a fan of film. We continue our discussion with film. And again, this is not an academic discussion, it's merely us growing up in a time and in a period we've grown with the various types of media, and analyzing what we've learned as a people. You know what we've learned from cinema, what we've learned from television, and how that's influenced our lives and the way that we think. Tashneem Abrams, Assalamu alaikum and welcome.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله. شكرا فسيح.
Well, ma'am, it's a pleasure having you with us, alhamdulillah. And I wanted to continue the discussion. We kind of tracked, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but we started looking at the life of a person, in front of the television from 0 to like 5 or 10, and then, from adolescence into teenage years, and then from teenage years, we're now moving into a space where we're going to be speaking about adults, and like we're talking about people who are of marriageable age, because the other aspect of media that we are exploring tonight is the one in which media portrays relationships and marriage in certain ways that are not necessarily compatible with
reality.
Reality. Thank you for saying that. Not necessarily compatible with reality. And unfortunately, as a society, as we probably will discover, we fall for the joke, and we become, invested in these ideas that I'm going to find the perfect spouse that will just do everything for me, and vice versa. And then
And
we
we'll die
realize,
for each other.
of course, it's the whole Romeo and Juliet complex. And
What
then on
is
top
love
of
without
that,
teeth? That's a joke.
Just on the side note, the whole Romeo and Juliet thing, as a story, it plays beautifully. But in reality, one might ask the question, why give up your life when you are healthy for someone else who was also healthy and made a decision? That person made a decision to do whatever they were going to do. Why give up your life? I think that's. I don't know if it's on the same level as the whole Jack and I can't remember the name. His story where Rose. Yes, yes, Rose. Oh, thank you. Must have seen Titanic more than I have. And the fact that both of them could have fit in the door. That whole discussion. Why did he have to be sacrificed?
Shame. He sacrificed himself. I mean, that's not the same as Romeo and Juliet, though.
Well, okay, he sacrificed himself to save her.
Yes.
But some people are saying that in that movie, Rose could have actually saved him if she wanted to. She could have allowed him to get onto the door as well and float with her. They were saying there was ample space, but the director of the film.
But then they wouldn't have won all those Academy Awards.
Yeah, but I mean, are those Academy Awards worth Leonardo DiCaprio's life? Man, come on now.
Yeah, he didn't win an award, so it's fine.
Yeah, because he sunk to the bottom of the ocean.
He was supposed to win that award. He died.
Yeah. Well, okay. If I have to talk about Titanic, the one thing that I will say about this is that it's a very strange film. As much as it's very romantic for people, it's a very strange film because there's a bizarre thing going on in this film where you have this love story unfolding around a horror story. Because there are literally people dying and falling off the boat. If you've watched the film if you watch the film very closely, and the ship is being torn apart, and sinking to the bottom of the ocean after the iceberg, people are dying in a horrific fashion. And there's this whole idea of the classes where the wealthy people get lifeboats and the others just have to fend for themselves and swim in the cold, icy waters. You
I
know
mean, us
that.
during the pandemic.
Well, maybe.
You know, when the rich people were in the bunkers and we were to live yet again in reality.
Yes, they never had to travel in public transport. No buses, no taxis for them. No concern about social distancing. They worked from home. You know, Zoom and everything. You know, laptops
But they
set
were
up
still
and
complaining about running or jogging or exercising.
I remember the protests, the beach protests. I remember the whole, thing about, yeah, we need time to exercise. I remember when President Cyril Ramaphosa actually took the decision to lift that restriction and give them an hour or two. I never seen so many runners on the the next day. There were so many people running. I was like, whoa, is the whole Cape Town running? And it was kind of, I think it's just that sense of rebellion, and the sense of, okay, fine, we have this opportunity. Now we're just gonna, go out in force. So yeah, yeah. So privilege is a real thing, even in the movies, although on the side note, I don't know if this is gonna make it to the actual film, but I do feel that throughout the film, Rose wasn't entirely genuine. She was still very much aware of a class, right?
Oh, she was.
That's why she, and the privilege. That's why she believed initially that Jack took the pendant. She herself wasn't prepared to sacrifice herself for Jack as much as he was prepared to sacrifice himself for her. So it was kind of like she was concerned with self-preservation as much as she had this deep love for him. You know, she'd literally abandoned him when he was arrested. She did not believe that he stole the pendant. Then on top of that, when they end up in the water and he helps her survive, at the end of all of this, she makes the choice. She wanted to end her life at the beginning of the film anyway. She makes the choice to stay on the choices to stay on the door and let him freeze in the waters. So kind of like she's still very much aware of her privilege. When I look at it, I'm like, she didn't really love him that much, it's not as much it's not as much of a romantic film. Love is about sacrifice, I guess. That's what they tell us, love is about sacrifice.
And death.
And death too, apparently. But you must be willing to sacrifice as much as the other person is willing to sacrifice, whatever's within your capacity. But what I'm trying to say is Jack died because he was poor.
That's exactly right. That's what movies teach us. They teach us poor people deserve death, basically. That's a joke. I'm not going to put that in.
So but anyway, yeah. So coming back to what the topic is tonight, and that is of course marriage and how our views are shaped by cinema and what we see on the big screen. And I think it was important for us to have this discussion because nowadays we find the current and former generations, I would say going way back to maybe the generation X or generation Y, we find
generation Z, isn't it?
Generation Z. I'm kind of getting confused about the alphabet there. But anyway, there are a lot more people choosing to not get married, and they're choosing not to get married on the basis of these unrealistic ideals, some might say, that movies portray, and they can't find a partner that fits that mold. Waiting for the one, and and again, it goes back to those animated films we used to watch, where the one will come who will change Disney my movies. Whole life. Yes, the one will come who will change my whole life, and everything will be perfect. And what I find is that, people grow up reading romance novels and being swept off your feet being a real thing, right? I don't understand why a woman has to be swept off her feet all the time. I mean, I felt that, surely in the relationship you need to be able to balance with both feet, right? But this concept and idea of being swept off your feet, being unbalanced and being romanced, and I'm not saying that shouldn't exist in the context of marriage, for instance. There shouldn't be romance, there should be excitement, but it's almost as if this person must give you an experience that befits the fantasies that you had as a little girl, as a 12-year-old or 11-year-old. That's the first impression that these romance novels give you. But then you match that up with latter day programming. And I see you laughing, so I'd like to get your views on this in a moment. But let's get to, then you skip ahead to when you're an adult now and you start watching these romantic films where it's like, so you find the one, you find the perfect person, you get married, and then it's like the movie just cuts from.
How do you even know that is the one? Is it just based on feelings? What is it based on? Like, how do you know this is the one? Like, do you hear bells when you meet the one? Do you feel it in your stomach?
I think if your Bluetooth pays the first time, then that's the one. So basically, then there's this idea of couples meet one another in film. The one sees the other one, and they have this period of time where they're deciding on whether or not they want to be together, and then finally they get to a point where the one proposes, the other one proposes, and they get married, and then the movie cuts to a scene.
You're forgetting about you speaking just like it's just so fast, but there's different acts, and this is what creates the drama. It's all about that drama.
Yes, the whole thing about will won't they get together, that type of thing. But what I'm getting at is that you move to a point where, like, all of that happens in the middle of the film, and towards the end of the film, you get the proposal, you get the wedding,
and end of the movie.
And end of the movie. Again, that assumed happily ever after, and sometimes perhaps you get an end credit scene. a Marvel scene. Okay, you get an extra scene where it's 2 years later or 3 years later, and there's a couple of kids, and they're sitting in the park. So it implants in the mind of people that this is success and this is happiness. And interestingly enough, Mufti Menk, I was watching a video where he was talking about divorce, and he was saying sometimes the first marriage doesn't work out, the second marriage doesn't work out, and perhaps the third marriage will work out, and that's where you'll find your contentment and your happiness. But, people are so concerned about making it perfect. Not that we don't want to find the best spouse, the best possible spouse for ourselves and our personality, but the fact that we want to make our lives so perfect that sometimes we make the wrong choices.
But maybe it's also about learning the lesson, because I've seen that thing with Mufti Menk, and when he said it the first time, I was like, what? How many people are you going to have to marry to actually get to someone who you are actually compatible? But yeah, I think that what he was trying to say was that Allah, probably what he was trying to say was that we are, the same thing happened to us over and over until we actually learn our lesson. Yeah, does that make more sense? I feel like that makes more sense.
I think to a certain degree, but also what he was trying to do is give people hope, because there's a stigma around divorce, right? There's a stigma around divorce in our society. If a woman gets divorced or a man gets divorced,
specifically a woman, it's even harder to find someone after.
Then it's like, the first thing people say is, oh, there's Halima, and please, if there are Halimas that are divorced, please, I'm not talking about you specifically, but there's Halima. Halima's divorced, almost as if it's a scandal, there's something wrong with it. The fact that this woman is not married.
But they're shaming her.
No longer married.
That's what they're doing.
They're divorce shaming her. They're basically divorce shaming this poor lady, right?
But they forget when one of their sons separated.
Then all the blame goes on to the girl and the fact that didn't work out, or the female. And then if Halima happens to find a spouse and she gets married again and she gets
Mm-hmm.
divorced again, and it's like, oh, here comes Halima, Elizabeth Taylor, you know, uh, that's what people say, right?
Mm.
And so if she gets married again, then oh yeah, Elizabeth Taylor's at it again. She's found another person, and I find that that's so ridiculous because our what we're doing is we're shaming people for following the sunnah, right? We're shaming people for wanting to get married and wanting to have a life, and here Mufti Mink is kind of giving those people hope, saying, you know, sometimes it doesn't work out. You know, even Sahaba got divorced. You know, its personalities are different. You know, we choose people, and sometimes we grow apart. We start out being unified, but our needs become different. We grow apart. But movies generally don't leave room, like romantic films don't leave room for those nuances.
Mm-hmm. I agree with what you're saying completely. It makes me think about. Do you remember the series How I Met Your Mother?
Yes, yes.
It's like the most unhealthy relationships in that series with protagonist Ted. And I didn't know how bad it was until recently when I rewatched it. You know, he's always looking for the one where there is someone good enough in front of him every single time. But he keeps making these excuses because he wants to find his soulmate. I've been reading this book also, you know, about romanticism and how it's because of romanticism we have these ideas of what, you know, love is supposed to be like. You know, we have these ideas about what being in love is supposed to be like, you know, what soulmates are supposed to be like. It's all these ideas that we have, but we don't know that, you know, love takes work. Love is an action word. I sound like someone that knows so much that I really don't.
You know, when we talk about us as Muslims, right?
Hmm.
We're taught that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put that love between the two partners. So what we understand is that what you really have is infatuation. You meet someone and you're
Yeah,
infatuated by them.
chemistry.
The chemistry, the you know, the sense of being attracted to a person for certain reasons, right?
Oh, and the honeymoon phase is so lovely in the beginning. You know,
Yes,
whatever
yes.
you are feeling in the beginning is so lovely until you actually, and it blinds you. It completely blinds you when you see someone and, you know, all these feelings of excitement, you know, of getting to know this person, this idea that you have of the person. But do you actually know the person, or are you being blinded by that infatuation? It's just a question. Yeah, I
And
ask myself all the time.
and you know, when people talk about relationships, we run to movies, we run to
Mm.
self-help experts, we run to, and here's the thing. I feel that a self-help expert, a person who's written a book about the relationships and they're still single, you know, that's not the best. You can't. That's not the best place to get advice from. You know where you get advice
Like,
from? Yes, don't take advice from us. But anyway, you know, Buta Dula, for instance, and Auntie, what's the name? What's the name that I used now earlier on? Auntie Khalima. Buta Dula and Auntie Khalima, right? They've been together for 45 years, right? So it would be more appropriate to ask people who know the road, you know, what are the ingredients of staying together? You know, what made this relationship work? If they have a healthy relationship, because some people do have toxic relationships as well, but if they have a healthy relationship, that's where you get information from. I would say more than, you know, trying, because in most instances, people who write books are trying to be more groundbreaking, trying to, you know, include content that it is different and a different perspective on the relationships. And I don't think relationships are that complicated. Yes, people are complicated, but the process of understanding and listening and those types of things, and sharing and being honest, these are all values and things that should be within us already. You know,
mm-hmm.
the tips and tricks that people try and teach us nowadays are sometimes things that goes against the, you know, the common sense. We teach people to play games with one another rather than be real, you know, and stuff. So I feel that yes, there is a place for experts, but Sometimes you just gotta, ask someone who's been through it, man.
Someone
What's the
in a
secret?
healthy relationship.
Exactly, not a toxic relationship, you know, not in a narcissistic relationship, not in a, it's like a parasitic relationship. Someone who's in a healthy relationship.
But do you think the generation before this, they were in healthy relationships though? Or do you think they were just sticking together for the sake of the kids, most of them? Or if, yeah, some of them. It's just a question I'm asking.
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, I would
Yes,
like to know the answer.
yes. Well, look,
It's
okay.
just a question we should be asking. I'm not attacking anyone, but I would like
I,
to know.
I don't want to generalize, right? But I will say that yes, there are people who had healthy relationships, and there were those that did not have healthy relationships. Um, at the end of the day, I think that some people conform to societal norms and others don't. So it's never just everyone listens, to the status quo, and it kind of assimilates. I think that
Mm-hmm.
yes, there were people who had good relationships and those who had bad relationships. Um, And so that's why I'm saying you need to look at people who had a healthy relationship. Not people who
Mm-hmm.
argue all the time. Not people who fight all the time. Not a husband putting his wife down in public and a wife putting a husband down in public. That type of toxic
You
relationship.
mean a relationship where there's no respect?
Exactly, where there's no respect, right? Where they'll steal the chip right off your plate, that type of thing.
Uh,
Uh,
what I'm trying to say is like the generation before this, yet again,
mm,
I'm not, but yeah, the generation, like we have at least now, we do have experts, and I'm not saying self help gurus, or maybe if self help gurus are for you, it's your thing, or even, life coaches, if it's for you, it's for you. But I mean, we do have books to help us, we do have more material available to help us, and yes, you should lead by experience, I guess, or by observation of the generation before this, or of couples who were together for a long time or in a healthy relationship. Yeah, but at the end of the day, experts are there for a reason, just like psychologists are there for a reason.
well, when I look at those types of books, right? What they're actually
What
talking
do you
about is
mean when you say those types of books, though?
those types of books. I'm talking about exactly what you're referring to, self-help books. Um,
Self help books. Okay.
self-help books, right? Those types of books generally
Mm-hmm.
teach us self-awareness, right?
Yes.
And I feel that um, again, as Muslims, we have the perfect grounding if we really follow our deen to
Mm-hmm.
understand what self-awareness is. Because first of all, it will teach you the way that you impact others by your words and your deeds, the way that you impact others by
Definitely.
your motivations. What are your
Mm-hmm.
intentions? Check your intention. The way you impact others by virtue of how you interact with them and what it is that you're trying to get from the next person, and what emotion are you trying to evoke, and and are your intentions genuine or not. And I think that as Muslims, we tend to look at Western models to solve
Mm-hmm.
Islamic problems. And I'm not saying that there isn't a place for that type of knowledge. Certainly, knowledge is knowledge.
I was
But I
about to
think
say, why does it have to be either or? Why can't it be and?
no, I'm saying that there is a place for that. But in
Mm-hmm.
most cases, as Muslims, the first thing we do is we extend ourselves outside of of that space of knowledge and say, let's look at what Dr. K or Dr. I'm not going to mention his specific doctors, but let Dr. K or Dr. Q is saying about relationships, right? And partners. And yet Dr. K or Dr. Q doesn't have your cultural reference. They don't live where you live. They don't have the kind of bread and butter issues that you do, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because how often in these self-help books are people talking about money problems and being really broke? You
I
know?
really
How
just
often?
like self help, term self help books. Let's just say
But
psychologists
let's
because
say
they're more
DI, let's
trustworthy.
let's say DIY help books. Even psychologists write self-help books, because it's kind of like you help yourself. Buy my book and help yourself. To a certain degree. And I'm not putting down that kind of literature, but I'm saying that there is that thing about uh, the type of literature that's designed to get you to evaluate your life and basically uh, um, ch- try and tweak and change things that will help you have a better relationship. And so what I'm saying is, if your value system is my partner, my husband is not making salah 5 times a day, all right? This part of your value system as a Muslim, and it's fard. It's something you must be doing. How does someone outside of this community who cannot understand that significance, how do you communicate that to them? You know, and
Yeah, but
how
that is also looking at it black and white. You do get Muslim, you get really good, especially now, like, especially online, you get Muslim um, psychologists who are bringing Islam into yeah, psychology. But that's besides the point. What I wanted to say is, I think it should work with both, because at times, yes, we are given the knowledge, or of what we are supposed to be like, but how do we do all these things? And this is why I think it can be and not either or. Our first book we go to is the Quran, without a doubt. There's no doubt about that. But there's a reason why, yet again, Allah has, given these people knowledge, and I'm not speaking about Western people only. You get Muslim psychologists as well. I don't know if you're going to leave this in or not. Yeah.
look the look, one of my favorite people is Ridwan Hanika.
Mm-hmm.
He's a life coach. He is someone who, has a background in psychology, you can say. And when we talk about issues, the difference is that we have
Mm-hmm.
discussions that are both based, grounded in Islam and Islamic theorem, and on the other hand, it's also grounded in that psychological, understanding of the psychology of the human being.
Mm-hmm.
So, and ultimately, life coaching is about training your brain, NLP, like basically training your brain to make better choices.
I really don't like
Choose.
life coaches.
Well, I didn't either right at the beginning, but it transformed my thinking because I feel that most life coaches, and this is not going to make
Mm.
this part is not going to make it to the most life coaches have very airy fairy way of looking at life. Oh no, you got to do
Yeah,
this.
everything is in
This,
black and white. I think
but
this is the reason why I'm bringing in the Quran, you are taught you are supposed to have these virtues, right? And this is
mm,
something I've been experiencing. This is why I'm saying you
mm,
can use both. In Islam, you are taught you must be nice, you must be good, you must do this, you must do that, but you aren't taught that there are people who are going to take advantage of you at the end of the day. There are people who are going to walk all over you if you don't put down certain boundaries, and this is really important to have at the end of the day. And we're not
it
actually taught that.
it is, but also that's why you find the Sunnah, right? Because the Quran gives us the legislature, the laws, and the Sunnah gives us the practical, right? Our, the example of the life of Rasulullah, how he lived with his wives, how he lived
Mm-hmm.
with people, how he treated children, how he understood relationships, right? And then also not only their lives, but the Sahaba's lives as well. And not only those people's lives, but the learned people came after them. I think it was Imam Ibn Hanbal, who said something really amazing and beautiful to his son. He was speaking about the nature of the dynamic between man and wife. And he was trying to teach his son that your wife is not a man. She has different needs and she's coming to
Mm-hmm.
you from a different household. She's coming to you leaving a family behind. And one of the things that he said, which was so amazing, was he said that um, don't expect your wife to be uh, like you. Don't expect that your wife uh, is going to think like you. There was something else, I can't remember the statement that he made, but you see, it's the accumulated knowledge of scholars. If we talk about psychology, Imam al-Ghazali was the
Mm-hmm.
greatest psychologist in his
And
time,
philosopher.
basically, and philosopher as well. He he was one of the greatest psychologists and philosophers, and 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 his body of work deals with the human condition, you know. So when myself and Ridwan have the discussions, he draws from Imam Ghazali as well as looking at, you
Mhm.
know, modern psychological concepts. But he draws from Imam Ghazali to understand how we spiritually work
But
through things.
psychology comes from philosophy anyway.
Psychology comes from philosophy, but it also comes from a deep study of the mind.
Mm.
And you must remember, all sciences, modern day sciences, originate in the Middle East. Ibn
Mm.
Sina and all of these people were doctors and 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 so you must remember, Europe never had a renaissance. They did not have a renaissance, and you might
Yeah,
say,
they
but yeah,
stole
they
a lot
did.
of things.
At that time, what happened was there was a lot of expeditions to the Middle East, and the culture, the language, the aspects of religion were brought back into. That's why, for instance, the judges
Mm.
in the courts in
England.
Europe, in England, they
Mm-hmm.
wore wigs, but it was a replacement from the judges in the Arab world who the Qadis used to wear vursels. The idea of eating with a knife and fork came from the Middle East. These
Mm-hmm.
people who lived in Europe actually had very filthy lives. They were riddled with disease. They bathed once every, you know, if they bathed once every critical as they said. They were filthy, 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 filthy in terms of the daily habits. And again, this is not going to make it to air, but anyway, in terms of the
Yeah,
daily habits.
I'm bringing up the whole because I know there are people at times who struggle to empathize, and that's one of the things in Islam. You're
Mm.
supposed to feel what someone else feels, but some people don't feel that way. So psychology or reading self-help books helps them. So I think
It
that's
does.
also very important.
It does. I'm not
I
discounting
don't
that,
think
but
we should
what
put any of this in
no,
about the
no, no,
psychology.
no, I'm not discounting that at all. All of that I'm saying is that we've got to filter the information that we have.
No,
Mo-
definitely we do.
because most of the bestsellers, in my opinion, most of the bestsellers on bookshelves are rubbish. You
No,
know,
that's the truth. I don't like
because
self-help books. Like I just said, I hate it. I
it's
hate
like
life
it's like
coaches.
10 steps to a better you. You know,
And some of
or
them start a cult. They don't even know they are in a cult,
yeah.
inspiring people to do whatever. I agree with you. So you should
So
actually source better. That is what people should do at the end of the day. That is what I think, at least.
yes, and the thing is, the knowledge, the process of understanding and knowledge, we need to curate that, man. But the problem is, in our community, our people get taken in by any pop psychology that comes their way. So we start
Mm-hmm.
with our basis in Islam first. Unfortunately, there are people who are not as educated as yourself, and those people
Yes.
will look at something and they'll say,
But
uh,
your mouth.
mm, "Yeah, go ahead."
No, I'm just thinking. I have a friend who's so educated, and I think this is why I dislike self-help life coaches or self-help gurus because he's a thinker. He studies, he goes to varsity, but he was inspired by this one self-help guru or whatever she is, a coach, life coach. She said she's not taking the vaccine, and boom, he's not taking the vaccine. But what I'm saying is, these people influence you so well, you don't even know. Even the most intelligent person can be persuaded by some of these people,
But here's the thing: is it
especially
about
if you are
it,
struggling mentally.
is it about the self help books, or is it about his loyalty to her? Because remember, sometimes when you engage with a person and they teach you things, or you learn from them, whether it's
Mm,
online or whether you're reading through a book, you tend to kind of defend their line of thinking, and
mm-hmm.
you develop a sense of
Like a
loyalty. So
cult.
yes,
Like a cult.
like a cult, whether it's intentional or not. So it's like, she said this, so I'm not going to go against it. You know.
I think it becomes a problem or dangerous as soon as you are not willing to listen to other people's perspectives with a specific idea. If you're just following what someone else is saying, and
That's
that's
why
so
you.
easy.
That's why your baseline, your backbone is Islam.
That is
Because
true.
Islam teaches you, this is the springboard. These are the guardrails for, and again,
But
we
if you
don't
read
know.
some of these, Malf, go on. can hear you.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Have that out. Have that outburst.
No,
And
I was just
I
going to
wait for it.
say, if you read some of these books, why you feel. I mean, you know, I read these philosophy books here, and I get so much of Islamic things in there that you're supposed to practice and do all the time. Like I was telling my
Because
friend the other day, it's weird. I read this all the time, and this isn't even Eastern philosophy. I haven't gotten there properly yet. But in the Western philosophy, right, there are certain things that they are doing that I was telling you. This is like Islamic. There's
but
like no
remember,
doubt about it.
anything and everything that is cultured of Western of European and Western culture and philosophy, right, comes from religion. The basis
Mm,
of it is religion, right? The very fact that man asks about his existence, right, comes from religion.
religion. Mm-hmm.
So you must remember, at the at the core of every faith, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam is monotheism.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
that's the core of everything. So therefore, when you read a philosopher and you find these concepts, you must remember a person who dedicates his life to purifying himself and good character and towards uh, worship of one creator, he attains some form of enlightenment,
Yeah, but not all
right?
of them are
He attains some
men of
form
the
of
book.
he attains some form of no. But what I'm saying is, he attains some form of enlightenment if he dedicates himself to, improving his
Learning.
character,
Mm.
learning, and also worship. Right? He attain he attains some form of enlightenment in this world, which opens his mind. Right? However, the key to unlocking that as Muslims is the recognition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the creator and Rasul as the prophet of Allah, the last prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the other people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given openings and the ability to think and reason. However, because they don't form part of a complete faith, right?
Mm.
They don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. So it's kind of sporadic, it's spread out. So these concepts that one might read in philosophy, they have a root. The root is religion,
Mm.
right? The root is theology. The root is monotheism. But unfortunately, it's kind of like here and there. That's why you'll read in those books certain concepts, but then they are joined with other concepts, atheistic concepts.
So when I read
Where
this, I like bringing Islam also into
yes,
it because for me, sorry, that is what it seems like. Like they're just taking from Islam.
that's why Jalaluddin Rumi has been hijacked, right,
Mm.
by the Western world. They've tried to sanitize his sayings, what not understanding this man was
Sexualizing it.
yes, this man was a Sufi sheikh. He was a Sufi sheikh. And at the core
Mm-hmm.
of Sufism, at the core of the self is the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the recognition of Rasul as a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the core of Sufism. Getting close to Allah subhanahu wa
But
ta'ala
they have to do
ultimately.
that. They have to erase
Yeah.
the true
Because
history behind it.
Be, because they're trying to divorce the link. There are societies in Europe studying Jalaluddin Rumi, but they studied without the religious connotation or context.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, if they could change his name, that's why they shorten it from Jalaluddin Rumi to Rumi. You understand? Because when we call him Rumi, it doesn't sound Muslim. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
I
then we
get
can
what you're
have
saying.
then it becomes like Aristotle and becomes like these philosophers and the idea of love. Like what they don't understand is when he's quoting passages about love, right? He's quoting passages about love for the divine. You understand? He's quoting
Mm-hmm. I do.
about that. That for me is what they're not understanding. That's why they'll never go further with this line of thinking. They'll never go further than a certain paradigm. Unfortunately. That's why we as Muslims, we have the complete picture when we read Rumi, because we understand he's motivated by Tawheed. He's motivated by that spiritual dimension, which I find is, when we read it, man, you can feel what the man is saying. You can feel it, like you could truly understand it. But we were talking about movies now in the Rumi. Let's go back to movies, right? Okay, so coming back to the whole idea of film and how we perceive things and marriage. Uh, so, Tashreem, would you say that from that perspective, we as people, our first impressions of a person are based, like for instance, you meet a potential person that you want to marry, right? Your preconceived notions of marriage are a collection of movies, a collection of stereotypes that you've seen
Media.
in media.
Mm.
That uh, because I find also that even with the wedding ceremony, right? The perfect wedding ceremony that people are trying to find, the perfect music, the perfect dress, the perfect all of these things. It to some degree we're trying to re discover the perfect dream that we had, or the perfect film that we've seen. You know, the perfect Cinderella, you know, wedding or movie that we've seen that just took our breath away when the bride walked in, you know, and the music started playing. That type of thing. So would you say that that
What
kind of
music's
has
playing? Celine Dion?
my design? But anyway, well, you know, the basic thing is when Mine Zane's album dropped quite a few years ago, uh, for the next, I would say, couple of years, for the rest of my life, was very popular as a wedding song. I don't know, I think it probably still is in some circles, you know, whenever there was a wedding. But kind of, would you say that that stereotype, those stereotypes and those tropes and things that people have you know, and preconceived notions that they developed are largely from television, largely from film, that now informs from fantasy their real life decisions.
I would say that. I think that. I actually posed this question online, and most of the people said yes. I asked them if you know, movies was something that not what movies. What did I ask? I posed the question about whether or not they believe that film played a role in them choosing their partner or wanting certain things from the partner. And yeah, most of the people said yes, definitely. There were one or two that said no, outright, definitely not. The one was older, like in his 50s, I guess. And yes, males and females, by the way. It wasn't like just females. Males and females said yes, Disney played a role. Someone also said yes when they were younger, but once they started seeing someone or they started dating, they realized that it's not like can I say Disney? It's like a Disney film. Everyone knows it's Disney that we're speaking about. You know, the happily ever after, you know, the infatuation, the chemistry, the excitement, all of this. This is Disney. This is what Disney teaches us. Romance teaches us.
And Twilight
Reminds me
teaches
of
us that.
Twilight. Wow, Twilight. Yeah, Twilight. Um,
Sparkly
I don't know if
vampires.
you watched the film When Harry Met Sally. I always think about this. You know, in that film, they don't get together until later in the movie. So why is it they only get together later in the film and not immediately? There's a lack of chemistry. Firstly, in the
Mm.
no, there's no lack of chemistry actually, but they argue or they don't get along as well. But the point I'm trying to make with that When Harry Met Sally is it takes them a long while to actually get to a point because they grow with each other within that
Mm-hmm.
form where they actually end up together. But that's besides our point of happily ever after, and they don't show us who's picking up the towel in the toilet. Yeah.
What's the what's this deal about picking up the towel in the toilet? Um, I because like for me, you know, when people talk about that, right? Uh,
Uh-huh.
I feel it's not just the towel in the toilet. It's not just the shoes out there. It's about the idea of what you're bringing to this relationship, right? As a person.
Every single relationship is
Mm.
give and take. Sometimes it's
Yes.
not going to be 50-50, but it's always about giving and taking, you know, needs that are being fulfilled. And I'm not speaking about relationships only not only romantic relationships, any kind of relationship, there's give and take. And I think when it comes to leaving the towel on the floor, because this is what I hear a lot of married people speaking about, the towel that's on the floor. Who's going to pick up the laundry? But I mean, it's about respect at the end of the day.
And
That's what
having
it's
needs
about.
and having basic needs met, like making sure that
Yes.
you don't leave something there that someone else has to pick up after you, or that you are cognizant of the sacrifices someone else has made, and you're not just going to, disrespect them, because that's a symbol of big, great disrespect, right?
Mm-hmm.
That towel lying there for some people is like you dis. But then again, also it again is about communication, because the other spouse might not understand that. For them, it might be like I just forgot the towel there. But it's like, this is my domain, and you just left this thing here. You just disrespected me. You couldn't recognize the fact that this place was clean, and you just dropped this wet towel right here. Why did you do that?
Mm-hmm.
So, but in movies, those things are never explained. That's the breakdown of a marriage in a movie, right? When people are having these arguments, but it's never explained
But
how you
conflict
repair
is
these kind of
also
relationships.
normal. Yeah. See,
And that's important. It's important to have conflict, because without
yeah.
conflict, you don't grow. Because you just
Yep.
end up agreeing with each other, which is
Yes.
never healthy.
It's
Never
how you
healthy.
are handling that conflict, and also if you're open enough to communicate. That's what I think.
Mm-mm.
Are you open enough to be vulnerable and communicate and speak about what you're actually feeling and how this person is making you feel? Did our generation even grow up speaking about feelings and emotions? That's the
Again,
other thing.
again, um, I think to a large degree, if we if we saw films where couples
Mm-hmm.
really spoke about the issues, the real issues. If we saw films where couples, had the good days and the bad days, and how they worked through those things, and it wasn't about a cutesy, here's a chocolate and a, and a sweet, forgive me type of thing, when some flowers type of thing. But it's kind of like, how do we respect one another, and how do we understand each other, and how do we work through these things? Then I think perhaps this generation, or our generation, would have been better equipped going into relationships, because
Yes.
the one thing you hear most often is communication from people who are married, and that's who are saying this is how you make relationships work. However, movies don't teach us that communication, that dialogue. It's devoid because it's not entertaining. It doesn't make for good TV or good
Movies
movie.
want movies are there for us to escape at the end of the day. One of the answers someone gave me when I posed that question was they learned from the environment that they grew up in. TV had nothing to do with it. And I found this extremely fascinating when this person said that. They watch, and this person, by the way, refuses to get married.
Mm.
So obviously, whatever this individual saw put them completely off from marriage. So I think yes, television and media plays a role, but our environment, and what we see also plays a specific role. Yeah.
Now, the other thing also that becomes clear is that uh, the type of spouse that you choose um, becomes influenced by the type of spouse you see on television or film.
Mm-hmm.
People always talk about they want a guy with broad shoulders, or the guy looks like this. The guy says he wants a girl looks like this, blonde hair, whatever the case may be, would be his ideal or dream girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be the ideal. Um, and we don't find people talking about the kind of character the person
Oh
has.
yeah, right.
We,
I
we don't
agree with
talk
that.
find we don't find the person talking about the how just, and this is going to sound boring, but they're looking for a spouse that's responsible with money, both male and female. Someone who is responsible in general, not reckless. It's always about these surface things, like what they look like, and
Superficial shadow
yeah,
things,
superficial.
yes.
And so, would you say that also, the blame can be, laid at the door of film and cinema, because you've got an hour and a half to 2 hours to kind of tell a story. So there's no time to put all of these things in there, and you're trying to get a range of emotions from your audience throughout the film. Take them on ebb and flow of this emotional journey, and those things are the boring things. The character, the response, being responsible. Those things don't feature because they are seen to be boring and not and make audiences lose interest.
Hmm. No, definitely. This brings me back to what I spoke about when I spoke about the male gaze. You know, we you don't want to know about the female and who she is. You already, well, not you, but I mean the character, the protagonist, the male protagonist is already getting this idea of who this person is by looking at this person. They don't care what is inside. They care about what's outside, or physical appearance most of the time. Um, and based on the physical appearance or the style of clothing or what she's wearing, there's this generalization that's coming from that. And this is what film feeds us. This is what Western media feeds us, basically. All these stereotypes that we have, these generalizations of what things are supposed to be, they focus more on the what's than the who's. You don't want to know who this person is. You want to know what this person is actually about. And that, I think, is where the superficiality comes from and the lack of depth, I guess.
Don't you think also it's the same with other topics that again it's n- i- it's not geared towards movies are not really geared towards making you think about things that are important. These are things that are important. The kind of person you're to marry, the kind of character that they need to have, the type of personality, the type of responsible person that they should be that would make for a successful marriage. So movies don't generally show you that. It's almost like when you watch action films and
Mm-hmm.
the hero jumps out of the car and shoots willy nilly into a crowd of people trying to get the bad guy, all right? Or he walks into a building and shoots 40 henchmen in the film, right? To get to the main
It's
guy.
possible.
Yeah. So so he shoots 40 people to get to the main guy, the main bad guy, right? And there's no cost for that. He walks out of the building and his life goes on. No police rocks up at his door and says, "Hey,
There's
you are a
no
mass murderer."
consequences for his actions.
No consequences for his action. And
Mm.
but also the real world, and the years we film doesn't don't the currency of film is not is emotion, not necessarily realism.
Mm.
Because what are the consequences of you shooting 40 people, 40 families that are devastated, right? What are the consequences of you doing that? And we have this conversation. It's kind of like we think it's hilarious because what socially conscious and self-aware martial artist with automatic weapons walks into a building full of ninjas and thinks about their 40 families. He's like,
Mm.
what, I need to go and get the bad guy. But it's these things that film and media don't cover, the realities of life. But we are, as young kids and even as older people, we are absorbing these things passively. These lessons, as I would say, they become life lessons because it becomes part of our DNA. Not that necessarily you will do the same thing, but you become desensitized to seeing these things. So that's why our people can stop along the side of the road and take a picture of a dead body of someone who's been shot in an incident of taxi violence, or someone who's been run over, and they'll take pictures and share it on social media and not think, hey, that's a dead body. It's we need to give it the respect it deserves. Let's not put this on social media. Let's try and cover the person. Let's give him the dignity. you know
It's all about
it's
feeding the ego, also.
yes, yes,
While we're
yes.
speaking about that, I think it's about the ego, filling the ego all the time. You know, what
and,
is
and
this picture going to, how many likes is this picture going to give me? Where can I sell this picture? I don't know. It's just, yeah, I think this is what the issue lies down. Like it's about ego. Ego plays
so
a big role.
so you know what you've done now with egos, it brings you, brought us right back to the point that we were making, and that is, so people make the choices based on their own ego and
Yes,
feeding their own ego,
yes.
because you want what that woman in the film has, or he wants what that man in the film has, right? The beautiful, attractive girl, or the handsome, you know, tall guy with spiky hair, whatever type of hairstyle he has. I don't know what hairstyle's in vogue at the moment, but you know, you want what they have. So it's your ego. You know, if I have what they have, then I'm as special as they are. You know, even
And
though
I'll
this
be
whole,
happy.
I'll be happy. Even though this whole thing is fake. I mean, the two people who are in the film are not even married. You know, they don't even know each other from a bar of soap. They met like 6 months ago when they started filming.
Mm.
You, what you see as perceived so-called chemistry is 5 years of acting classes, but yet it sold you on an idea of relationships that has that might become destructive in your life. You know, that for me just blows a person's mind.
I like that. That might become destructive in your life. That's true. You know, I read somewhere also that if you are feeling a certain way in the beginning within a relationship, that is not something that should be trusted at times, because that could also be childhood trauma that's replaying itself.
Please elaborate.
So if you are attracted to a certain person, or you're feeling chemistry, you're feeling that, in fact, not all the time. I just have to say that this is not all the time, but at times when you are feeling a certain way about someone, right, that you are attracted to, there's something that happened to you, or there's a either your mother or your father or some caregiver, there's something that needs fixing within that relationship. So this is why you're attracted to someone who's similar to something that you were not given as a child. So you are actually trying to fix or heal that wound. And this is where that, what's it? Infatuation, chemistry, excitement,
So
not all the
so so
time, yet again,
so what?
not all the
So what?
time.
So you're speaking about people with daddy issues, right?
No, I'm speaking about caregiver issues, not only daddy issues.
No, I know,
Yeah,
I know,
it's a,
I know.
it's a, it's a fact. So at the end of the day, do we trust that feeling? Do we trust that feeling of infatuation? Do we trust that feeling of excitement, that we were taught is supposed to be there in the beginning?
But that's the thing. That's why, as Muslims, we were informed by this idea of character and is this person someone who's ibadah? Do they fear Allah? Because if a person fears Allah, they have a sense of responsibility within themselves. So
Mm,
automatically, if they are responsible within themselves and they're taking care of themselves, then they would be ideal and an ideal partner to take care of someone else because they've got their stuff together. You know, which for me is profound because we live in a society where we are supposed to take people on their word on the most crucial things.
mm-hmm.
Taking a spouse is a big thing. It might impact your life. That person might end up being
I know, this is
a
why we're still single.
very much so. I think we've been thinking about it too long. But anyway, the take it's a big decision, and I think you don't
Please.
want to be a failure, but sometimes people get married on the basis of these superficial things that we see in film, and and also because of maybe some emotional issues that they haven't worked through, and they'll marry the person on that basis and sacrifice the most valuable thing about themselves, which is their freedom. Not the freedom necessarily, but they'll give up their time to someone rather than looking at the person objectively, asking those
Yes, I
questions,
agree. And they are
asking those
scared to
hard
ask
questions,
these questions. I think, yeah, there's this fear of asking the questions because you don't actually want to
because
know, because you want
ego.
to hold on to that no, it's also about holding on to that feeling, so you don't want to know the real person. So you know you just rather hold on to a feeling that know the person who they really are. Ask the proper questions, ask the who instead of the what. There was something you said Just can't remember what it was. I wanted to say something. It's fine.
Okay. Well, the other thing also is that, so what film has done with modern day males and females is that it's also given people a sense of, because film works in stereotypes, right? There isn't the broad range of things that you can cover to create a broad spectrum of narratives. So it's kind of like you have a wicked stepmother. You understand what I'm saying? And you only have wicked stepmothers or bossy stepmothers in film. You only
Every
have,
sorry,
yeah, go it, go it.
no, I just every single character. Oh, I don't want to say every single character, but I mean, if we think about it, characters within film and media are always one dimensional.
Dimensional.
Always. Yes. So the stereotype, if she's the good girl, that's what she is. She has no qualities that, there's no rebel in her. She's just
Yeah.
this one person, or he's just this one person that has no bad qualities. That's just who this person is. That's how they get us with stereotypes. And then we bring this into reality as well. I'm not even speaking about marriage, I'm speaking about people in general, judging people, thinking we are superior because we're seeing these one dimensional characters, which is something we've taken out of film because we were programmed to think that way, you know. Um, and I think a lot of people, all people are multi-dimensional, three-dimensional, There's more character, there's more to someone than being just good, there's more to someone than being just bad. There are qualities within those people, and we are always looking at the on the surface value of everyone. I think this goes for romantically as well, obviously, because that's what we're speaking about, but relationships in general. We get this from TV that everyone's supposed to be a certain way. Oh, you are the cheerleader, this is what you're supposed to be like. Oh, you are this person, this is what you're supposed to be like. This is what TV does.
And here's the other thing: looks. The fact that looks play such a keen role. It brings to mind Quasimodo, right? The story of Quasimodo and Esmeralda, and the whole thing about him being protective of her and caring for her, and or having affection for her, and being protective of her, and actually saving her at the end of the day, and willing to risk his own life and his own safety to save Esmeralda. But he doesn't end up being the number one prospect, because he is not necessarily, he doesn't fit the mold of a
The
knight in shining
perfect
armor,
guy.
the perfect guy. So who gets who gets to be Esmeralda's spouse at the end of the day is the secondary character who doesn't really do much in the story, but
He
because
just
he's
said
more
so good.
appealing. Yes, he's more appealing. He's more appealing physically, and so what that does, when you say what that does, also is it creates this thing within the minds of people that uh, a partner needs to be the most attractive, the person that you need to find the most attractive person, because that's, you judge people's value on the basis of how attractive they are. The more attractive they are, the more high value they are. And so therefore, that's basically what you're pursuing. So would you say that that's what film has kind of programmed into us, that we have to look for the most beautiful people, and we judge ourselves by how the beauty of the person we are able to get, that gives us our sense of value.
I think at a certain age, maybe, but as you get older, I don't think that is such an important, that plays such an important role, to be completely honest. I mean, when we're younger, definitely, without a doubt. But older, I think we learn a couple of things that the most attractive is not the most valuable at the end of the day. But yes, film does do that. I do think so. That's what it teaches us, get the best of the
Mm.
best. You know, not someone that's just good enough, but someone that's better all the time.
because there's this concept of high quality woman and high quality men. Uh, that's
Mm-hmm.
portrayed in media, and you always see that the nerd, the guy, the dork in the film finds
Oh, I
himself.
love the dogs.
Yes, he finds himself, with his zits and his taped glasses and all of that stuff. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
he he's the one pining away at the fact that you'll never be able to marry this beautiful gorgeous girl, and then what
Mm-hmm.
happens is he has to undergo a metamorphosis. He has to change who he is to ultimately become worthy. Sometimes what happens is in the film, 5 years later, he's now no longer a dork or a nerd as it is described. He's
I mean,
now
the
a
same goes with the female also. There's always a
yes.
metamorphosis with a female.
I'm thinking about that film with Freddie Prince Jr.
She's all that.
Yes. Where that thing happens as well. But it's this idea that you
You
need
gotta
to.
make yourself better for someone else to find
Yes,
them, for them to find you more interesting. That's what you were
yes,
asking me, right?
correct.
Yeah, I, yeah, I do think so. But I think I think nowadays they are more aware of what is happening and what they are doing.
Mm.
I'm saying this, but they just made the film He's All That, where they had the exact same thing happen
Oh
to the
yes.
guy.
Oh yes. I saw that. I thought it was sort of like a. I thought it was one of those parody films, but it's actually a real thing.
Yes, it's a real thing. I think where they are going wrong in the West is what they are doing now is they're not changing things, they're just changing the gender of things, and they don't understand that the problem wasn't the gender situation. The problem was more the context of the situation. Why
Yes,
does someone have to, go through this makeover in order for someone to be with them
to
or
be
like them?
accepted
Yeah, it's the same as
because
with Greece. Remember Greece?
yes, because
She
you
has to
see,
change. Sorry.
society. It's not just the guy or the girl who has to accept this person. It's also society as a whole. The moment you change, society accepts you. The girl who looks nerdy in the film, the moment she changes her appearance, all her classmates, think she's wonderful. Everyone thinks that the world opens up for her, right? Because of appearance, right? The same with a guy, now all of a sudden he's got so many prospects because he looks more handsome, and he's worked out, and he's I don't know whatever else he's done to attract
Hair
people.
haircut
And
usually. Contact
had
lenses
yes,
haircut. Boom, makeover.
yes, he squeezed out his zits, and now he's not as smooth as a baby's
No,
bottom.
they never ever have zits. They can't have zits. It's Form 101.
Yeah, unless it's a film that is slapstick, then you'll have zits. But if it's not,
Yes,
if it's
definitely.
a rom com, you don't
No,
have zits.
you just have a
I- uh,
high ponytail and glasses. That's the
Interesting.
cliche. That's the trope.
Does it? But
I know,
but
right? Glasses.
but but here's the thing. That's kind of the Clark Kent scenario, right? Um,
Clark Kent looked so good with his glasses. I cannot understand the whole obsession with glasses.
but you see, it's the idea of four eyes. People saying, he's four. This person's another four eyes because they wear glasses, right? So it's the stigma around glasses that created that idea. And so people wear glasses. They are seen as being outcasts because they have to wear something on their face. Although
Another
nowadays,
trope.
when people exactly, so that was at the right time for when Superman. Because let's be honest, back in the 50s or whenever Superman, or in the 40s, or whenever Superman was conceived, um, the idea of glasses wasn't a very attractive thing. Nowadays, we have very fancy glasses. People look very, very attractive wearing. People look very attractive wearing them. So it's no longer something that only outcasts wear or strange people wear, and people previously used to, walk around without glasses and you start bang into things because they didn't want to wear glasses because they didn't be perceived as something like, unattractive. But now people are actually proud of wearing glasses, and actually it complements the outfit and the lifestyle. It's a whole different thing, and now nerd culture is becoming popular.
Not now, for a while.
For a while now,
For a
nerd
while.
culture has become popular. The whole wearing glasses and being into comic books and all of these things, and video games and all that stuff. Yeah, it's become more mainstream now, so it's more popular than it's ever been. But that thing is really where the crux of the matter lies. Where film gives you this idea that you need to change yourself in order for society to accept you, and not change yourself in terms of a character, but change your physical appearance. Do everything you can to change what you look like in your identity, and then you'll fit in.
And
So
you know what? As soon as they change their style, their personality miraculously changes as well.
exactly, they're no
So
longer
weird.
socially awkward. They're not no longer
Mhm.
nervous. They're just fully confident. Um, and now when we talk about the idea the idea of marriage, right? We've spoken about the types of partners that people would choose and why they would choose a certain partner that they would. But there's also this perceived idea of the wedding, right? That it needs to be a fairy tale. It needs to be on a large, grand scale. It needs to be like, if you can get, 4 horses and a horse-drawn carriage, and 4 massive liposanas to drive this monstrosity, or the best location for the weddings, the best, it would you say that also that is played into how people these days see and perceive what a wedding should look like? Because um, we as Muslims, we understand the concept of walima, feeding people, but this whole grand, spectacle that goes with weddings these days, just doesn't seem to kind of fit in with, the whole concept of, what Islam is trying to achieve.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Could it be because of maybe it's also about keeping up with the Joneses? So you see someone else's wedding was a certain way and you want to compete with that. Yet again, it's the ego. But it's
But
definitely the film and media as
mm,
well. Watching something on TV and recreating that. Why? I don't know.
I think
But
everyone wants
yes.
to. I think everyone wants to be a prince or a princess, right? To some degree, people want to be princes and princesses. That's why everyone loves the Princess Diaries, because it's like, oh my word, you see the chandeliers in that place.
Do
Did you
you
see the?
like the Princess Diaries?
It's come across my recommended list once or twice. Um, I'm a sense. You know what? I like the film. I'm not gonna say I don't like the film. It's hilarious. It's funny. It's and I have a big, I love Julie Andrews, so I'm there. I'm there. Yeah, and Hector Elizondo, one of my favorite characters. He
Okay.
steals the show. He's that that's my man. That's my brother. Right. So anyway, these films, like, the idea of, did you see the chandeliers and the wedding and the guests and all of these things, and how amazing? Did you see the amazing spread? And she looks like a princess, and I want to look like that. You know, on
Mm-hmm.
my special day, I want to be a princess. And the reality is that we aren't royalty. We aren't princes and princesses. We live in the reality of life. When the wedding cake has been eaten up and the guests are gone, you still got to pay that 80 grand for the wedding, or 90 grand for the wedding that you've put out there. You've still got to eat for the next couple of months. You've still got to do your day-to-day things and have money, but it's the idea of the spectacle that you don't really
Spectacle.
enjoy. Yeah, because let's be honest, the bride and groom don't really enjoy the day. They don't.
The wedding is not about the bride and the groom. The wedding is about the parents.
Exactly. It's about their fantasies, what they've seen
Yeah.
in film and what they've seen. other people doing and wanting to compete with them. And I mean, let's be honest, people are never going to be satisfied. There's always going to be some auntie saying, you know, daai kos was 'n bietjie droog. You know, daai rice, ek het baie lank gekou en daai rice.
People go to
You know,
weddings for reviews, basically.
of course, of course. I mean, long before it was popular on the food channel, how people were doing it for free. Um, so basically, you know, you're never going to satisfy people, but film has created this idea in the minds of people that you need to create this huge spectacle for people. And we say it's about memories, but how much of the day do people really remember? You know, all you have is the photos, and you can't see the the intricate detail on the centerpiece on the tables in on a photo that was taken.
Sometimes
from,
you can't see the centerpiece because someone took the centerpiece.
Look, that's a time-honored tradition, eh? The centerpiece. No, because in the past people used to give the centerpieces away. Like, okay, guys, you can take. But then afterwards, it became like people thought you could just take the stuff, and I have to remind the guests, please, the centerpieces are rentals. We giving the stuff back, so please don't take these things. There's also the other thing, and that is, people take the centerpieces away, but also take the food away. Some people put food in their bags, and I'm not talking about like carry bags. Some people come in there. No, I'm talking about the fake Louis Vuitton bags of a chicken and stuff in the air. Like,
Some people bring their own Tupperware.
No, that's too much. That is too much. I'm sorry. That's if you start bringing on Tupperware, you were too prepared. Sorry. But so those are the idea. That's the idea of marriage that we see in our society today. It's the idea that you marry someone who you will have a relationship with, and it needs to start on this note. It needs to start with a bang, basically. And then also the idea of happily ever after. And here's the thing that a lot of people have a problem with. People really think about it. Happily ever after, what does that mean? Because you've got to live with this person. Film doesn't tell you what happens afterwards. It doesn't tell you what the challenges are, what the hurdles that the couple need to get over are. It just tells you that they lived happily ever after. And so what happens is, wouldn't you say that people absorb that and they think that my life is going to be perfect now, and when something imperfect in their opinion happens, it upsets their whole world.
They think it's abnormal. They think it's not supposed to happen. Yeah, I agree with that. The happily ever after, not looking at the other things, the little things. When someone is chewing, how it might annoy you. It's the small things. This is one of the things. Yet again, the towel on the floor.
Towel on the floor. I was going to say that.
Yeah.
The fact that, for instance, the husband goes to the back, makes himself a cup of coffee, and the wife says, "Make me one as well," right? And then he's like, "Okay, fine." That's right at the beginning of the marriage when they all kind of like, "Oh, I'll do anything for you." And then 5 months later, he's like, "But I was in the room 5 minutes ago. You didn't tell me you wanted coffee. Why are you telling me you wanted coffee? Now that I'm making it, But it's these types of things that never explored. These little conflicts and challenges and hurdles and things you need to get over. Because film portrays this sense of perfection.
I was going to say that word perfection now. It's all about that perfection. And they also make you believe that it's not a journey, it's a destination. Happily ever after. If you're not living this happily ever after, you need to get out, because that is what your destination is supposed to be like. That's where you're supposed to be. It's not something that's continuing. This is for every relationship, I think. Also, we are shown that within relationships we are supposed to get to a point where there's never going to be arguments, there's never going to be conflict, there's never going to be rupture and repair, there's never going to be downs, there's always going to be ups. When you get to a certain point, there's no going back. Like it's linear, like everything in TV is one-dimensional and linear. Sometimes I can't believe we actually believe these things. It's actually quite funny. Oh my word. People don't have moods. People don't have emotions. People don't have feelings. You just maybe everyone on TV is robotic. Also, I don't know.
I mean, something as simple as flatulence, right? Something that will never be portrayed in film and media.
Girls don't fart, okay?
Well, okay, is this a scientific fact?
On TV.
So the idea of of those things, of being human, uh,
Yes. They take the
that is
human
never
aspect
discussed.
away. But
And
whose
and
fault
so
is that at the end? Is that TV's fault or is that our fault for actually believing all this? Because we know people do certain things. We know people are human, and to be human is to basically feel and to experience and to love and to, go on this journey and not to have things, fixed for change and movement to occur all the time. We know this, that everything's a process here, but so why are we still believing at the end of the day? Why are we still believing in television? Why are we still believing in film and media? What does that say about us?
so
Film is supposed to be there for a distraction, so why are we holding on to this idea or the ideologies and the generalizations of media? That is the question we should be asking.
don't you think it's because we have been consistent in programming ourselves to the point where these things have become staples? They've become cornerstones of our thinking.
Probably. So when do we step out of the matrix then?
The first thing we need to do is we need to unplug and then get some cool
No.
shades.
First thing we need to do is take the red pill. You froze. I got a bucket of sunshine. I got a. Oh, take me away. Oh. Mm. Oh, I don't know. Oh, wait. Mm. Mhm. Oh, Papa. Take some water.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
What happened?
Okay. I kicked my plug, man. I have a little. There's a little. The cable's a little frayed at my power supply, and whatever I keep doing this, I keep kicking it by mistake, and then just
Oh,
my laptop just switches off. So yeah, I need to
okay.
get it sorted. Yeah. Um, you look very Indian with that scarf. Like really,
Probably.
like it's part of a sari or something.
Yeah, I think it's the scarf itself.
Okay. So where are we now?
I don't know
What
what
was
we were speaking about.
I was hoping you knew because I was
Nope.
on the point there and then I kicked my plug. Okay.
And so I don't remember.
Okay. Let me just trace my steps because we spoke about so many things. Gee, was how much of this is actually going to make it to broadcast? Right. Okay. So the point that I wanted to make was after the marriage. So let's go back to like after the marriage. Once the honeymoon phase is over. Um, okay. So basically, within film, there's this idea of as we mentioned, the concept of happily ever after, and the honeymoon is sort of the climax of the whole marriage thing. This this period of bliss where the couple now is getting to know one another and living together. Um, and the honeymoon phase itself, where couples generally are, they think every little thing is cute until they start getting to know one another and loving one another and find a towel on the floor, as you've mentioned previously, or there are these things that annoys each other, that they start picking up about each other, or communication issues and all of those things. And we did say that film doesn't necessarily give you an adequate scope of these issues and how people deal with them in a way that's constructive. It's basically just geared towards giving you a destination, as you said, rather than a journey. Destination is happily ever after. The journey is never explained how you got there, what challenges you had to overcome. Now,
What
on that point,
challenges you're going to have to overcome also
yeah,
within the marriage.
exactly. That are multifaceted. It could be
I have a
challenges with your
question.
partner. Yes.
So, is it marriage that changes people, or is it out here? Or is it when people get married, they think people have changed, or the dynamic has changed, but it's just that it's more realistic now compared to the fairy tale that they had before? That's my question.
Um, you've heard the adage, you don't really know a person until you live with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the idea, so my theory is that the reason why people change is because in the initial honeymoon phase, right, you're trying to impress the person because you are flushed with emotion, right? You are completely, obsessed with this person, and like the wife will wait at home for the husband to come home, and just so she can, meet him at the door. And the husband will, the wife comes home from work and he's home, and he will rub her feet and do this for her and do that for her, because it's kind of that period of time where they are so obsessed that they're in service of one another, right? Ultimately, they
In
because
service.
and of each other, and that service
Mm-hmm.
doesn't continue on into the rest of their lives because they become selfish.
It
Once
reminds me
they
of the film Gone Girl. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes,
Once.
once that familiarity sets in, right, the reality dawns, and it's no longer the beautiful dresses and suits, and looking dapper. It's now sweatpants and shorts. It's flip flops, and the guy's wearing his stretched out t-shirts, and he doesn't brush his hair unless he leaves the house. And
Yet
she's
again, just like Gone Girl. I'm telling you, Gone Girl is a movie that's ahead of its time. Amy Dunn, ahead of her time. When do they stop acting? When people stop acting, and then maybe that's when the problems come in. Anyway, that
Yes.
was just a question I was thinking about. What changes then?
So what I'm saying, what has changed is ultimately, it's not that people have changed. It's just that their level of comfort releases, you know, a certain level of contempt. That's the intolerance that's been there. You
I'm
feel?
sorry,
I
I
see you
just
want to say
keep
something.
laughing. It's just so funny. I'm just, for the longest time, Allah, I used to think there was something wrong with me because I've never felt excitement or butterflies or infatuation or all that nonsense. Because when I see people, I want to know who they really are. I don't want to know who they're
Mm.
trying to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, this year, last year, I started learning about it because I thought, now, okay, maybe there's something wrong with me because why am I not feeling butterflies? Why am I not feeling excitement? Why am I not feeling, all the stuff that TV is telling us we're supposed to feel? And then I realized, oh God, it's not actually me. It's the people that are actually wanting all these things, the butterflies, the infatuation, you know, they want the honeymoon phase, I guess, I guess
but
it's
but but also
normal.
but also you see what's different with you. Probably, I'm just guessing. What's different with you is you thinking your way through it, as opposed to trying to feel your way through it.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
because listen to music, listen to pop songs. I'm sitting in my room when I'm thinking of you, and my heart just skips a beat and all of these things. Doesn't the lyrics of any specific song? Anyone, if anyone's writing a pop song, you can take these lyrics for free. But
Hmm.
um, that's
Oh,
what
you're
it's
not putting
trying.
the. Are you're not putting this in though?
No, okay, no, not really, not
Oh,
really.
please.
So, now I would never do that. So, the idea is that when people write pop songs and stuff, what they try and do is they play up the emotion more than it needs to be. The emotion is part of the thing, but
Mm.
it's not the whole thing, right? Because because if it was just about emotion, you could survive any storm.
Emotion taking me
King me over,
over.
yeah.
That's the
Caught
song.
up in
Yeah.
sorrow, lost in the song. Yeah. Don't you? What's the rest of the song? Don't you know
I
that
don't listen to
nobody's there
lyrics
to?
of songs.
No, man. You can't start a song and then just not know the lyrics.
I just know that
That's
part.
rude. That's rude. That's rude. You can't, because now it's gonna bug me and I'm gonna have
I
to go
just
Google
know
these
it's
lyrics.
emotions taking me over. Boom, that's done. I'm asking you also about marriage changes everything. Last year, that was like the tagline because that's what a lot of divorced people said. And a lot of people got divorced because of COVID, obviously.
But can I also tell you one thing? Don't take advice from the divorced people. Also,
Oh, divorced people, yeah, definitely. You know what someone told me? If there's no excitement, then why go for it? And it's like, this is your second divorce, and you're telling me that I think you should be learning. Maybe you
yeah,
shouldn't go for
yeah,
excitement.
because the problem is there was too much excitement, and you see the
Yeah.
thing is also there's a difference between being you know being on the ride and being addicted to the emotions. People become addicted to that
Most
feeling.
men are addicted to the emotions compared to females, eh? I'm telling you this now, like straight up. This is where that love bombing and that comes from in the beginning. It's from men who are addicted to the feeling of the butterflies and the infatuation. I've had so many women also ask me about the whole, is it normal? It's not normal. It's really not normal.
But also remember that a certain amount of affection, right, is a
Mm.
normal thing. I mean,
Yeah,
you don't
deaths.
people aren't just gonna be like, hey, I like you, let's get married,
Yeah, deaths.
and
Deaths.
then
Yeah, but
like
you spend more time with someone in order to get to know them, and then you might grow. I think that is also a problem these days. Well, our problem because I'm so old.
so
Because that's what people look for. I think they look more for feeling. And my friend honestly told me, like, he was married once. He got married with this girl. Anyway, they separated. But I mean, he got married the second time. He's happy now. And I keep thinking
mm,
about what he told me. It just plays over and over. About it doesn't actually matter what the person looks like. It matters who the person is inside, and that's more important than anything else. So that is what you look for.
yeah.
It took him a while to get to that point, but he got there, alhamdulillah, and yeah.
I recall
That's
you
something that
mentioning
I keep
that
thinking about.
he
Yeah.
managed he married this person, the second person he married for personality, not for looks.
Yes, for character.
Because because he stopped thinking about the image of the person that he was trying to marry, and he
Yes.
was looking for the
And
character.
the
Mm.
people he went out with before, that is what he said. They were toxic. I don't like calling people toxic, but this is what he said, his words. Like they were quite a hand, like they were something. I don't know what they were.
Look,
But maybe they were also just not meant to be.
you both amongst males and females, you get this thing where there's a lot of narcissism going on, and that narcissism is bred in many instances because of insecurities, that just
Yeah,
kind of get built up over time, and it develops a person that is both insecure and
full of
also
themselves.
and full of themselves at the same
But they're
time. And
not
so,
actually full of themselves. It's just an insecurity that's talking.
well, but you see, narcissism is sort of kind of full of yourself because
Because of
uh,
insecurity.
because that person has control issues, right? They want control over someone that they can basically dominate and manipulate and
This is what
victimize.
I've seen in a lot of the previous generations' relationships as well. And I
Mm,
don't think people understand there's a difference between attachment and
mm,
connection. And what you want at the end of the day is not an attachment, because you are not supposed to be attached to anything except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
yes.
You know, you need a connection with with someone. Attachment is about controlling, whereas connection is about getting to know, is about companionship, it's about, kind of 50-50 at the end of the day. But yeah, attachment is what a lot of people want or they think they need. Yeah.
Look, on the issue of attachment, it's about look. Attachment to a certain degree is healthy, right? It's
To a
it's
certain
not
degree.
completely, to a certain degree it's healthy, because you also want to like the person that you and feel good about the person that you
Definitely,
are
but I think you
engaging
can
with.
have that with a connection. I find that with attachment, there's just this control. You always want to
But
control what the person is doing, what the person is saying, how the person is
but
manipulating the person.
but you see things also. Marriage is a little bit about attachment because,
Mm-hmm.
for instance, a healthy amount of jealousy in the relationship is a good
Yes,
thing because it means that you
definitely.
are attached. You are attached to the person you're with. Because if it's not, then you get swinging, right?
But I'm saying maybe our term or our definition of attachment then differs. Because for me, that is what I think about when I think of attachment. I just think of someone wanting to control. You can have an emotional connection with someone. It doesn't have to be an emotional
Attachment.
attachment to someone. Yes, and I think that's it. Our understanding of it, my understanding of attachment is completely different. Mine is just like
I,
about
I,
control.
if I think about it a bit more, I actually agree with you, because the word attachment itself does denote something a little bit negative, because attachment means no control, whereas connection means I can connect with you, I can disconnect with you,
I want to,
I want
yes, and
to.
there should be that want also. But I mean, attachment. I think there's something. I thought about this last year
Yeah,
also about this word attachment. When you're attached to someone, it's okay, but I mean, there's also that control of you wanting this person to be a certain way, and this person must give you or fill a certain need of yours. And if the person doesn't, then there's that sense of
it's a deal
control again,
breaker.
and that's also narcissism. I guess when I think of narcissism, I think of attachments, because that's what they have. They have attachments with people and not deep connections. It's quite superficial.
The the religion that has the most profound insights on this matter, of what you are supposed to be delivering in a relationship, right? Is Islam. Because for me, what's so profound about it is that it teaches you that, first of all, don't, like you've mentioned, don't lay your heart so heavily on anyone except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right?
Yep.
To the point where that a relationship will destroy you emotionally, mentally, physically and spiritually. Right? If it
I
doesn't
think
work
this is
out.
also where codependence, in a way, especially in our culture, there's this codependence of you can't have, everything you're supposed to do together. That's what my friend said also when he got separated now. This is the second time he got separated. But he was telling
Mm.
me it's like when they're married, then it's like people expect them, or even the wife expects them to do even. It's almost like they're one. It's almost like they're one person. And I think that is also very, in a way, I hate the term toxic, but it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy, yes. To
You
see
need
it
to
as
have
one.
activities that are separate from each other. You need
Yes,
to
you do.
have
I totally,
you,
yes, definitely.
you
Friends also.
but you shouldn't
Friends full
have,
different needs. Yes,
but also you shouldn't be, you see, there's also a danger, because on the
definitely with
one side,
everything.
on the one side, you should have your own thing as well. You should be able to say, me, this is my life, this is whatever. But on the other side also, what happens is it's so easy for people to start more and more, as they become more and more independent within the relationship. They become independent of their partner. That does happen because people start paying less attention to their partner.
Mm,
Like for
definitely.
instance, like for instance,
There should be a balance yet again, and it shouldn't be either or, it should be and.
but the thing is that, you see, what we
Mm,
do is we create a life for ourselves. And this is just my opinion. We create a life for ourselves where we service ourselves first. Remember that a relationship is about a partnership. You've got to give up some stuff, right?
yep.
You can't have it all your way. Like for instance, a
It's
guy who
about
plays pool.
compromise or
It's about compromise,
respect
but
and
where the compromise,
consideration.
but where the compromise lies is based on what the shared values are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, many times people's shared values don't align, and that's where the problem comes in. Like for instance, people say, "Well, you know what? I need my friends," but then does that mean I can go play pool by my friends 4 days out of a week for an hour and a half? That's your time.
Yeah,
Do you understand what I'm saying?
yeah. I do understand what you're saying, but
That's
that is not
selfish.
what that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there should be a balance, you know. It shouldn't be too much of something. You know, you still need to have friends. Don't hang out like every single day, but I mean, it's healthy to see you spend time with friends as well, even if it's once a month, you know.
Mm.
I'm saying that
No, it's different.
codependency, you're supposed to be codependent and independent at once. Yeah, there's supposed to be this balance of you having your own, you know, hobbies or your own
Mm.
interests and spending time with the person that you're with and having something that you do with them as well. It shouldn't be one or the other. That is what I'm basically saying.
No, no, I definitely get you there. Where we go wrong is that we don't know where to set the limits. It's like this. You
But
have a
it's for
chocolate.
different people
Yes, you have chocolate, right?
differently.
You've got a Cadbury chocolate. I don't know if you eat chocolate, but you've got a Cadbury chocolate in front of you, right? And this Cadbury chocolate is a 200 gram slab, not a 100 gram slab. It's a 200 gram, right? And you're sitting. And it's not a weekday. It's not a work day. It's a Saturday. You're sitting. It's like, I know, being very descriptive for this scenario, but it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday, and you're sitting with a 200 gram slab, right? So what you do is you pick off a piece and you say, "No, I'm gonna have this row." So you pick off a piece at the top, and you start eating that row. And then after that, it's like, maybe I can have a little bit more. You know, I don't eat chocolate often. You start doing the second row, and then it becomes the third row. And then before you know it, there's like one row left, and like, oh my word, I can't believe I've eaten all of this chocolate. Now, similarly, we have that same thing where if we don't have checks and balances, we will choose the things that destroy us.
You're speaking about desire and being selfish, then, basically.
Yes, yes.
Because you're not
Desire and being
considering,
selfish.
but that is not what I mean, there's supposed to be a balance then.
No, I agree
Yeah.
with you that there should be a balance, but I'm saying that as human beings, most of us don't have that safeguard, right? We aren't responsible. So therefore, it's important to constantly have the communication so that the
I was
person
going to say now that's why
that's
communication
the
plays a
sound,
role.
because they are the sounding board. They tell you, you know what, you're not spending as much time with me as you know I'd hoped, or you know I needed your support here a little bit more than what you gave me. I see you want to share something.
I don't want to share something. I'm just laughing because you're saying it almost like men are really open about their feelings or what they actually want. Like it's normal. That's
Look,
what I find funny.
it's
For a
easy.
man to say, I'm hurt, or this is how I'm feeling now, I find
It's
that
e-
it's
it, it's
harder.
easy. it's easy for me to say that because the dynamics are different. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. I'm not bearing my
Yes.
soul to you, so you know,
No,
I
but
don't.
what
I'm
I'm
not putting.
saying is you're making an example of it like it's normal, and I don't find that it's normal for men to express themselves easily. Yeah,
Because society has not made it easy.
definitely. Yeah, I agree
You
with
see,
you, Devs.
the thing about expressing yourself is, um, but you see, the thing is, you have to break down those barriers in the relationship. You have
Yeah.
to. You've got to get to a point where you say, "You're not giving me what I need from you." All right. Um, and ultimately, for instance, let's look at the roles of a spouse. It's for that person to be there. That's the main thing. It's for them to be there, for them to be a sense of support,
Companionship.
companionship, and also a source of comfort. All right.
Hmm.
That's what a spouse is supposed to be. Uh, Now the difference is that society teaches us they must be your everything. They can't be everything. They
That is
can't
the
fix
thing that
everything.
I'm speaking about. This about that person being your everything. This is what I meant when I said my friend said, they see them as just one person, like this, they must just do everything and
But but the,
be
but
each
the,
other's
but
everything, and that's
but
not fair.
those are insecure women.
Those are what?
Insecure women. They're trying to feed every gap in their
Oh,
life
I'm
for
not
their
speaking
husband.
about the woman. I'm speaking also about society. That's what the pressure
Mm.
that they put on. Yeah. Anyway, let's
Yeah.
continue.
Okay.
It's getting late.
It is. Oh, what? It's 11:20. All right. So anyway, so coming back to the point that we were making. So there's this after the honeymoon phase, you have this dynamic now playing out where people look at themselves and they compare themselves to the characters in films, not directly, but it's this body of information floating around in their brain
And you're
of
doing
what
it
they think a perfect
subconsciously.
yes of what you think a perfect relationship is, based on what you've seen on TV, what you've seen,
Mm.
and so you when you're arguing about dirty socks or a towel on the floor, or or you're arguing about who drank the milk and left the carton in the fridge and those types of things, and how you deal with arguments. These things aren't portrayed in film,
I was just
right?
going to say that they never ever show us like how are you supposed to deal with arguments, with disagreements. Like, what do you say? How do you communicate it? Is it okay yet again to speak about your feelings? I am saying this because you are hurting me. I feel disrespected when you do this. Yet again, they don't speak about boundaries, and boundaries are so important.
Boundaries are decidedly important, and also it's those things that film doesn't care to tackle. But
Mm-hmm.
yet, the one thing that they've left out of the elements that they've left out of these films are the most crucial things. The things that actually make a relationship work. All the other things that they've included when you say in these films are things not necessarily designed to make relationships work. They're just designed to feed the ego of the person watching and the desires of the person watching. But the important stuff, would you say, is not there, man. It's not part of this whole package.
It's shallow. That's what it
Yeah.
is. It's a superficial an idealistic way of looking at love and relationships. Love, which by the way is an action word, it's not something that is just felt, it's something that you're supposed to do constantly, and they don't show this in film as well.
Can I
Yeah.
ask you the difference between love in the real sense and the Hollywood sense?
Hollywood sense. Hollywood, I think it's based more on feelings. That's what I think it is. We are told we are supposed to feel certain things before anything else. I don't know. That's like a hard question. What else? Love. Did I answer it already? I can't
No,
remember.
though, because my question was the difference between love in the world of Hollywood and the love in reality. What are the differences that you identify?
The differences between love in Hollywood.
Between love and love, basically.
Is it love in Hollywood though? Or is that just the idea of love?
The representation of love, because we perceive that as love as viewers, right? Because
It
people will
isn't
say,
something that's growing, it's something that's just there. It's something instant. And I think that is
and,
also
and
the problem with it. It's so instant, it's something that you just know and you just feel and you just go through it. I'm not saying that people can't feel that in real life. I'm just saying in Hollywood, there's this idea that you must just know. How do you know someone by just trusting your feelings all the time? What if the person's a serial killer? I'm just
or an axe
saying, like,
murderer.
all you,
Or,
yeah. I think that's the difference. I think we want everything must be instant because it's such a short time. They use these tropes to make us believe that everything can be based on feelings alone, whereas it's not feelings alone. It's about being rational, like I said last time, and the feeling, using rationality, using emotions, and being a little bit wise about making decisions. And they don't show that in Hollywood films.
so can I
Yeah.
ask you the question? We've spoken very negatively and disparagingly about Hollywood films, right? Are there any good things that we've learnt or positive things we've learnt from these very same? And I'm not talking about specific movies, but I'm the general, rom-com type of thing. Are there specific things we've learnt from them that are actually positive?
I think it's changing now, eh? I do think it's changing. I watched something recently.
That's
Um,
that's what I'm saying. Because I
oh,
said
what
I'm
do you
not
say?
specific things. I'm saying, are there things that are there any positive things from the general stereotypical Hollywood film that we've learned that's actually positive?
I can't think of anything now. Yeah, I really can't think of anything now.
So ultimately, you're saying so ultimately through you not being able to say that I can make the assumption that there isn't much good in these films.
I guess it's the way they make us feel when we're done watching it or while we're watching it. They're making us escape. But learning or taking from it based on reality,
Hmm.
specifically when it comes to love, when it comes to marriage and relationships.
So looking at that, I would then say that if we have looked at relationships, if we have looked at what love is designed to, it is said to be, that the typical Hollywood film has never portrayed the reality of that. In what our discussion is concluded, I would say, according to what you said, and that we can't really draw any positive lessons from most of these films. And we are excluding certain films that actually, veer off the beaten track and actually tackle issues in the real sense. There are some films like that, I imagine, but for the most part,
They are.
but they don't make that much money. And they don't have
I
sometimes.
mean, recently they had something called Marriage Story that came out, and that dealt with divorce. I quite enjoyed it. And it showed
um
us the reality of people separating and what it's like. But I get what you're saying.
mm,
I just went
yeah.
off.
Because ultimately, when people talk about the negative portrayal of relationships, particularly within marriage in Hollywood, uh, you are told, well, you come from a conservative background, so therefore your criticism is based on your prejudices, right?
Mm.
But what we've been doing as people living in the Western world, we've been analyzing film and its impact on society, and through this conclusion, we have concluded to a certain degree that there isn't much positivity in the general Hollywood, blockbuster or film dealing with relationships. There's not much. There's not much we can learn.
There is not much we can learn.
So it's pure.
I
So it's
agree.
purely entertainment, not educational.
I think this is what we're supposed to know when we go in to watch the film. I know we're programmed to believe that it could be different, but I mean, it's not. Movies are a distraction. Movies are there to entertain us. That doesn't mean we have to take from it. Yeah.
So, you know, having said that, I think that's where I want to conclude. I want to conclude the session this evening. Just with the understanding that, again, we have examined the concept, and this is a conclusion we've both reached, and I'm sure you, the listeners, well, that yes, there is a tremendous amount of benefit in experiencing something where there's a lesson in it for you. For the most part, there are certain films, as we mentioned, that do give you a more real sense of what relationships are. But on the whole, the targeted audience that Hollywood is directing its most of these types of films at are people who are young, who are impressionable. It's a sugar rush. It's a sugar high. It's designed to get them excited and make them fall in love with falling in love, rather than with the reality of what comes with that love and that sense of
Making
responsibility.
them
That's
fall in love with an idea compared to
yes,
something that's real.
because it's easy to fall in love with an idea or with a mirage than having to fall in love with the
Hmm.
reality, which
It's like
which
falling
requires
in love
working.
with. Hmm. It's like falling in love with perfection, and perfection is not something that's real.
That's
Perfection is
attainable
not
by us.
attainable. Sorry?
It's definitely it's not something that's attainable by us as ordinary human beings. The
Mm.
concept of being perfect,
Mm-hmm.
and so like I think that we've covered a lot of ground in the show this evening. I want to say a big shukran to you for joining me and spending this time on what I think has been quite a an eye opening session. I will continue to call you a cinephile because
I
of
am not a cinephile. I'm just a person.
but yeah, I'll continue to call you a cinephile because I feel that your love for the medium runs very very deep. Inshallah, hopefully we'll chat soon. There are some other aspects of film that I still want to explore because it's part of the human journey, and I think that it's become more and more part of the human journey as technology, as social media, as or other forms of media have brought us new ways of experiencing this content and how it impacts our lives. So we explore that in another program, inshallah. But Tashneem, Abram,
Can
shukran so
I
much for
just
joining me this evening.
say
Yes.
that so the conclusion is that we've normalized Hollywood tropes in a way and
Mm.
made it an idealistic or yet again an unattainable, um, made it basically unattainable
Yes.
idealism. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to also just think about what the conclusion was.
Well,
Yeah.
basically, I think that was what it was. We put it in its box. It's basically entertainment, not education. Um, it's designed to stir the feelings. It's like
Yeah, but
a
this is
physical.
us just speaking about it. So, what do we do about it now? Like, do people listening, do they continue thinking that whatever they are watching is real? You know,
Well, well,
what, yeah.
I think the benefit that the listener draws from this is sometimes we need to understand something by looking at it from someone else's perspective. If you're too deep into something, you need someone flying over the helicopter to give you a picture of exactly where you are in the maze. You understand?
Hmm.
So this kind of discussion is valuable for people who might not have seen Hollywood the way that we've explained it today, and not seen the relationships the way. Because what I'm hoping is people will go back and re-examine the approach and the motivations and intentions when going to seek a partner or going to a relationship. What are intentions and what are you trying to achieve?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to let's follow my emotions and see where this leads me. Not that I'm not entirely made of stone, and I'm not going to tell people to be robots,
I'm not
but
discrediting emotions.
not discrediting emotions at all. But I'm saying, let's be more responsible with how we view these things and how we view.
Or with our ideas of
Mm.
what something must be like.
Indeed, indeed.
I just wanted
So,
to know what it would, yeah, what the outcome of this entire
mm,
conversation was. Like, us normalizing certain things that aren't supposed to be normalized at the end of the day. you know
very,
and
very much
is
so.
it us, is it Hollywood then? Is someone going to step out and actually think, oh wow, I've been thinking this way this entire time? Anyway, yeah, you can
Well,
continue with your conclusion if
well,
you
well.
want.
Actually, the whole idea around that is yes. Um, I, there are other societal aspects that feed into this, but those are I'm not exploring those because particularly we've been trying
Mm,
to look at what impact film and television have had on us. So we can't really speak to we can't speak to the other societal things because our focus is on what this brings us and how it's programmed us. And I
mm,
think the conclusion we've drawn from this is we have been programmed. As much as we program things, we have been programmed by those things.
mm.
So trying to understand the programming and at least ask ourselves those questions is, I think, is a step in the right direction, where we start to make better choices. That's why I think this program is so valuable.
I
But
think you should
Tashneem,
have brought that up. That is,
mm,
yeah, I think
what?
that was supposed
Okay,
to,
okay.
yeah.
Let
Anyway.
me use this last 2-3 minutes of the interview to ask that question. So Tashneem, now that we've explored these concepts, and let's just look at kind of the intentions behind this. Some people might be saying, well, so what you're doing is you're saying that need to live as robots and we can't have emotion and we can't, because Hollywood has lied to us. What would you say would be the intention behind this? Um, Behind thinking about Hollywood programming, thinking about how relationships are portrayed, what benefits to those types of engagements, self engagements, or thought process. What benefits do they offer us, in a sense?
Well, I think at the end of the day, we shouldn't use Hollywood or films or movies as a foundation of, well, not only love, just as a foundation of anything. Because obviously it's idealistic. And when we make decisions, it shouldn't be based on what movies and films say. It should be based on more than that. That's what I think at the end of the day, especially when it comes to choosing a partner, inshallah. Um, yeah, I hope people listening actually listened and
Mm-hmm.
don't choose someone based on the tropes of, I guess, Hollywood.
Tashneem Abrams, shukran so much for joining me this evening. And of course, we have been talking about film. In the past couple of programs, we've been looking at film at at a younger age, in the teenage years as well. And tonight we've been speaking about, when you become an adult and how it influences one aspect of your life, and that is the relationships. And relationships form quite a large portion of your life because this is the time where you choose your partner. And so the question is, what are the criteria on which you're choosing partners? And that does film influence the types of choices we make in terms of partners. Do we look at character? Do we look at a person who's responsible? Do we look at someone who is mature, or are we choosing them based on the popular definitions of attractiveness and appeal that are given to us by Hollywood? And yeah, Tashneem Abrams has been my guest. Tashneem, shukran so much. All the best. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Shukran for having me, and walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
From myself, Muhammad Fasih Peterson, till I speak to you again, inshallah, I bid you assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Have a safe evening further, inshallah, and we play out with Umbarud Al Khudr taking you into the 7 o'clock hour. Once again, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Why is this button not yours? Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm clicking again. Pressing a D. Why is it not working? Shukran, you know what? Okay, while this thing is trying to in the broadcast,
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate the time that you're spending on this because for me, um, I love film. I grew up, watching various different genres of film, from classical 1930s, 1940s, you know, all the way through to modern day in all kinds of different types of genres of film. But it's only recently that I've discovered how much we've been programmed by film and how it's influenced not only the way we see, we talk, the way but the way we think and perceive ourselves and we perceive our world. You know, yes, there are variables, and there are other things that influence us, but film has played a key role. You know, the fact that we use the word cool, the fact that we wear basketball T-shirts and football T-shirts and stuff like that, and it's not. Unfortunately, there are not many people who can speak on this level. I'm not trying to put a feather in your cap, but there are not many people who can speak on this level objectively about film. Do you understand?
Uh-huh.
Because when you talk about film, people think about um, people think about headlines. Like we spoke about Titanic. Titanic is a anom- it, is a, I won't say anomaly, but it's a this caption in someone's mind. Or you speak about another film, they think about the emotions the film made them feel, rather than interrogating the concepts. It's like when there's a beloved film, like Gone with the Wind was debated now recently because of the racism.
Mm.
The way that black people were portrayed, and there's some people like, no, don't touch Gone with the Wind because it's a classic film. It's a classic film, but it depicts black people in servitude.
Mm.
So you're not trying to get that mindset of people, that the emotion that's attached to that away. Unfortunately, there are not many people who can do this.
Why did you ask me to speak about this specific topic?
I saw some of your posts, right? And I was clicking with your thinking around Hollywood, around these types of things, and I found that you would be the ideal person to engage in these things because there's a sense of objectivity and a sense of, okay, it's gonna sound bad, but there's a sense of cynicism as well, which I like.
A lot of sense. I'm just joking.
And I
No,
was
I
like, okay,
asked you that because it was so weird. You're just asking me, and it's so funny because that's last year. That's what I've been speaking about a lot. But it's because of my posts, probably. Because I found it so strange that you asked me this. Like I was literally I was speaking to my friend about this topic, or I was speaking to my friends about this specific topic. But now I know it's because you saw my posts.